How did you heard of That's random. Yeah. Yeah. Well, mostly the guy was really great. Walk away. Biden's gonna comment on the bridge collapse.
Like if anything, it's gonna be like a phone call. Like we need to get this back together.
Come down and like
Well, I kind of was thinking
and well, the way those things are in these tight corridors here, they are. No, I mean, it's like people. No, yeah, they weren't letting it out.
This I don't know if this would qualify.
You know the Bay Bridge out towards Eaton?
Yeah.
That one.
Thing is.
I was telling my buddy about it before we pulled up to him. Like, you're not going off the bridge. We got to the bridge. He got done. He like had to like shake his hand out. He was so nervous.
The worst thing was Connecticut was an absolute nightmare, and also the old Tappan Zee was a nightmare too. That thing was so low to the water. Where it's like
I work local here, and all my friends are like, this bridge could have had a strong wind. It seems that it could have knocked it over. Like, it's just like it just always seemed sketchy.
Really?
Yeah.
It's old.
Yeah. My roommate in Baltimore, living there, he was a bridge inspector for like a private firm in town. Yeah, and he would do like the tunnels underneath like the Bay Bridge, and they're in good shape, but you know.
After, I mean, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I covered a bridge collapse in Minneapolis in 2007, and nothing hit that thing. That just was just old and decrepit. And after inspected it, about, I think 10 people died. It was just rocking over.
Oh, remember that? What bridge one in what was it, Florida or something like that, where they put it up one day and then the next day it
Oh,
collapsed?
right.
It was like literally they had like
Pedestrian bridge.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that. It was like, what was it, set that bridge up?
I saw this boat was going to like Toronto or something like that.
Yeah.
This one, you know, didn't make it out of the harbor. That's the spot right there. The drone flying next to the ducks and then it pings on there. No, I just double checked. It's literally the flight restriction that they have set up ends in 25 years. It's basically
So, like,
they blanket. Yeah, you can't. If I
Rescue Coast Guard.
the drone wouldn't even let me. Like the app will physically won't let
Oh,
me
like
take.
the app will not let you do it.
Yeah, it won't. If it recognizes that you're in the red.
Probably good.
Yes,
Yeah, especially in DC.
well, there's plenty of drone operators out there that probably don't want to follow the rules.
No, and then there's like you worry about like the amateur people that just like buy it off the shelf and then go to try to put it up and it's probably too fast to like you can't.
Yeah.
Luckily at the border.
Yeah, but that's in what
No man, right now.
I was at one of the borders at the time across the far and I was just like, yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah. I did fly it near what's that town? One border town out outside well no. Yeah, look it up now. McAllen.
McAllen.
Yeah,
Great.
oh yeah, he's actually in the highway. No. This WGLA chopper shop is basically I think they operate on like a different like and they might have different ways of getting permissions too.
I watched UConn where they almost blew it. Yeah. I would love to see them play Iowa, but I don't think after almost losing to Syracuse at home, I don't see them making it much further.
So you're from there, so
Yes.
did you go to UConn?
Yes, I did.
There you go. You guys have won so many.
Very proud of them.
Probably gonna win the men's tournament.
Yeah, you are going to win the men's
The
tournament.
women have won so much, so it's just kind of weird that anytime they're not.
I'm rooting for the Cinderella. We want NC State, baby. Let's go.
You won it.
Have the low seeds win.
All right, Oliver, I'm dialed in. I hear nothing. Are they talking to us? Redial? But they're on the domestic number, huh? Yeah, 351-4721 IFP.
Sometimes with control, some control rooms they keep us quiet, which I
They
think
might be doing that.
terrifying.
We still have 3 minutes.
Some of them love to do that, and you don't even hear like the little chain noise.
I don't hear anything. Yeah.
We get a little spin back the other way.
Oh yeah. Hey, it's Oliver with Brian Todd. Can you guys give me a shout on the IQ, please? Guys, we're up, right?
I should be. Yeah, I'm up.
CYQ 12, RX Live 12 in Atlanta, is Brian. RX Live 9. Yep. Coming up from. Okay, now I'm hearing something about it. Here, there. I hear monitor checking people out. We're good. All right, why don't we switch? Why don't you? Well, that's the Atlanta RX.
It's gonna end up coming back around this way, so you might as well just.
Should we go back to where we were?
I would say so. Yeah. Right, because you're gonna turn towards it. You might as well.
Yeah.
That way you can just.
And
Stay.
that way you have the light on you a little bit.
Brian?
And we can do one of these or like I kind of. This shot has looked cool. That's in my backpack. I didn't turn anything off.
You see it under remote control. The TPM bridge has it. Or satellites. It's up. Yep. Let me know when you see the picture. Show me the streaming. Yeah, Tom, I have you. I was just gonna ask someone to talk. Yes, I have you. You have me okay? Tom, do you have me okay? Can you hear me and see me? Yep. There you go. You got him? We're good. Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You hear me okay? You guys have the second camera? Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's right over your shoulder.
side there. See some of the damage there as we zoom in tighter. This, as we mentioned, this is an ongoing rescue operation. The only vessels that are allowed here are rescue and recovery boats. And there will dive teams in the water all morning. We mentioned the treacherous conditions for them as well. This water is extremely cold, 46 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Very treacherous conditions for divers, and of course, for anyone who might have fallen in the water. You can only survive in that water for maybe 1 to 3 hours, according to experts. So the condition of the water and the currents. The water is smooth right now at the surface, but the currents are also a factor. There's pretty strong currents coming in and out of here as we're in the Baltimore Harbor and the Catskill River area. What we can tell you also is that this bridge is a very important hub for transportation up and down the East Coast for hazardous materials. Hazardous material is not allowed into the tunnels around Baltimore, where most of the vehicle traffic goes up and down the East Coast, but it is allowed on this bridge going up and down the East Coast. So hazmat materials cannot be transported here. This is also a massive disruption because no vessels, no ships, no cargo ships, no container ships can come in or out of here, and that could take days to rectify. I did speak to a gentleman who's involved in the
sun's getting way better on this.
So we have a live one here. This CC'd you all over. They're going to take us to, but they have to take the RFK Junior vice presidential one candidate out first. But he's not up. He's not up.
Who the hell is he picking?
He's picking Rogers.
Do we have hot lights?
No, mine's off.
I
Around 1:30, they did get a mayday signal from the boat ahead of time, allowing them to block traffic to the bridge. But there were workers on that bridge. Currently, 6 people are unaccounted for. I want to go to our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran, who's there in Baltimore with the latest. Terry, as we wait to hear this latest update from the president, what can you tell us about this search and rescue effort now underway?
Well, it continues. We can hear the helicopters overhead. We are told that there are divers underwater. There were sonar discovered vehicles underwater, and they are looking along the shores and on the deck of that massive ship as well for any of the survivors. 6 people still missing. 1 was rescued. And so that is the status of the rescue effort, of the recovery, of the search and rescue effort, which is the main priority right now. Officials say they will take a look at how this happened, this disaster, which has really frozen so much of Baltimore, frozen the port. But right now, the priority, that search and rescue operation, and it continues apace.
Selena, we expect to hear from the president at any moment. What are you hearing so far from the White House about this?
Well, look, this White House's priority is to make sure that all of the local officials, that they get all the federal resources that they need. We've already heard from the Maryland governor that he is working with the Biden administration to quickly deploy those federal resources. We also know that Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, he will travel to the location today. And what we're hearing from this White House, from across the board from this government, is that there's no indication of any malicious intent behind this. There's no evidence that this was an act of terror. The White House also saying that their hearts go out to all of the families of those who remain missing after this horrific incident. The president expected to address that any moment now.
And ABC's Elizabeth Chelsea is also there in Baltimore. Elizabeth, at last check, 6 people were still unaccounted for. 2 had already been rescued, but it sounds like this could have been far worse, with authorities saying that they at least did get a heads up from this ship, so they were able to block traffic to the bridge. How crucial was that?
Well, and Diane, the governor did acknowledge that, saying that that helped save lives, that they got that heads up. The people who were on the bridge were those expected construction workers, and that ultimately they're continuing this search and rescue effort to try to find them, but it could have been worse. And as you know, you can see from our live shot here, Diane, we are just south of where the bridge is, and it is still completely blockaded where the collapse happened. We have seen U.S. Coast Guard all throughout the morning. We know that they're diving underwater, looking for those 6 people who've been unaccounted for. There was a large part of the morning, Diane, where it was completely dark here when the search was trying to happen. So they have been now at it for a couple of hours now that they're trying to really try to find those people. But at this point, at least 6 people still unaccounted for. That number, the governor says, could have been higher, Diane.
And Terry, 1:30 in the morning, obviously not a huge time for traffic, which is why they were doing work on the bridge at the time. But even so, the size of this bridge, this is a major thoroughfare. Can you talk about the impact here?
The impact is tremendous on the city of Baltimore and on the region and, in fact, the entire U.S. economy. Baltimore is the 9th largest port in the United States. It is a major port of entry for automobiles and automobile parts from Europe. And all of that traffic is now frozen. There are 40 vessels, we are told, with Baltimore as their destination heading this way. Many have been backed up already into the Atlantic. Meanwhile, the ships that are in port, they can't get out. And so this is a major part of this region's economy and indeed the nation's economy that is frozen right now. And beyond that, as Governor Wes Moore of Maryland spoke about this is a psychological blow for the people of Baltimore. This bridge has been here for 47 years. The city has grown up around it. Neighborhoods depend on it. Major businesses depend on it. There's a major Amazon facility near here, a FedEx facility near here, all depending on its access to the port and on getting from one point to another. All of that is gone. That will snarl traffic for months here along already busy highways such as I-95 up and down the East Coast corridor. So this is a significant impact economically in terms of the daily life of people and also just in terms of the psychology. Governor Moore said when anybody in Maryland, anybody in Baltimore says the bridge is down, they felt it.
And here's President Biden. Let's listen.
Before I leave for North Carolina, which I'm going to do in a few minutes, I want to speak briefly about the terrible incident and accident that happened in Baltimore this morning. At about 1:30, a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which I've been over many, many times, commuting from the state of Delaware in our train or by car. Been in Baltimore Harbor many times. And the bridge collapsed, sending several people and vehicles into the water, into the river. And multiple U.S. Coast Guard units, which are stationed very nearby, thank God, were immediately deployed along with local emergency personnel. And the Coast Guard is leading the response to the port, where representatives from the Federal Highway Administration, the FBI, the Department of Transportation, the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Maryland officials and Baltimore Police and Fire, are all working together to coordinate an emergency response. Officials at the scene estimate 8 people were unaccounted for were unaccounted for. That number might change. 2 have been rescued, 1 without injury, 1 in critical condition. And the search and rescue operation is continuing for all those remaining as we speak. I spoke with Governor Moore this morning, as well as the Mayor of Baltimore, the county executive, both United States senators and the congressman. And my Secretary of Transportation is on the scene. I told them we're going to send all the federal resources they need as we respond to this emergency. And I mean all the federal resources. And we're going to rebuild that port together. Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of their vessel, as you all know and reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic before the bridge was struck, which undoubtedly saved lives. Our prayers are with everyone involved in this terrible accident and all the families, especially those waiting for the news of their loved one right now. I know every minute in that circumstance feels like a lifetime. You just don't know. It's just terrible. We're incredibly grateful for the brave rescuers who immediately rushed to the scene, and to the people of Baltimore who want to say, we're with you. We're going to stay with you as long as it takes. And like the governor said, you're Maryland tough, you're Baltimore strong, and we're going to get through this together. And I promise we're not leaving. Here's what's happening now. The search and rescue operation is our top priority. Ship traffic in the Port of Baltimore has been suspended until further notice, and we'll need to clear that channel before the ship traffic can resume. The Army Corps of Engineers is on the spot and is going to help lead this effort to clear the channel. The Port of Baltimore is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs, and I've been there a number of times as a senator and as a vice president. It handles a record amount of cargo last year. It's also the top port in America for both imports and exports of automobiles and light trucks. Around 850,000 vehicles go through that port every single year, and we're going to get it up and running again as soon as possible. 15,000 jobs depend on that port, and we're going to do everything we can to protect those jobs and help those workers. The bridge is also critical for travel, not just for Baltimore, but for the Northeast Corridor. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the Francis Scott Key Bridge on a daily basis. It's virtually, it's one of the most important elements for the economy in the Northeast and the quality of life. My transportation secretary is there now. As I told Governor Moore, I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to work hand in hand with the support of Maryland to support Maryland whatever they ask for. We're going to work with our partners in Congress to make sure the state gets the support it needs. It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort. This is going to take some time. The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way until the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt. You know, we're not leaving until this job gets done. Not leaving until then. So I just want to say God bless everybody who everyone harmed this morning and their families. And may God bless the first responders, many of whom risking their lives. And the reason I'm not going to take a lot of questions, there's remaining issues that are open that we got to determine what's going to happen in terms of the rescue mission and the like. But
Do you plan to go to Baltimore, sir? And if so, how quickly?
I do, and as quickly as I can.
You said the federal government's also going to pay for the repairs. I'm just curious, this was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you mentioned...
That could be, but we're not going to wait for that to happen. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
What did you make of Israel's decision not to attend this meeting this week?
Oh, I don't want to get into that. I'll have plenty of time to talk about Rafah.
You mentioned the port. Can I ask about cars? About the port.
As President Biden promising the people of Baltimore, we are with you after a major bridge collapse there. It happened around 1:30 in the morning when a cargo ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, sending parts of the bridge and people on it into the water. Currently, the president says 6 people are unaccounted for. 2 have been rescued, 1 without injury, 1 in critical condition. I want to bring in ABC's Terry Moran in Baltimore with more. Terry, how critical are these rescue efforts right now, these divers searching for these missing people, and this repair effort that the president is now promising?
Both are absolutely essential, and you heard the president touch on both. The search and rescue effort continues. Conditions are difficult. There's high winds out in the harbor, and the tide is full, and that makes it very difficult as well. But they are determined to continue this search and rescue, is what they're calling it, searching the shores, underwater, the deck of that cargo ship, anywhere they can possibly look for survivors. As for the repair effort, you heard the president, we're going to rebuild this bridge together. He said the federal government's going to pay for all of it, and time is of the essence. And I think in addition to the humanitarian concern about survivors, that's the main concern of the people here. When will they get this bridge back?
Selena, the president is promising to send all the federal resources that Maryland and Baltimore need right now. And he says that, as Terry pointed out, that the federal government, his intention is to have the federal government pay for all the repairs here. Could he face challenges in Congress with that?
Well, you heard the president say there he expects Congress to fully back him for this all hands on deck effort. He was really emphasizing during this speech that he's going to deploy all the power he can, all the federal resources he can, reiterating that he's been in touch with the governor, the mayor, other local officials to do this. His message to the people of Maryland is to stick with him. He also extended his condolences to the families of those who still remain missing. But you've touched on this earlier. It's not just the human tragedy that the president is aware of. He talked about the economic implications here, the jobs that are on the line, the supply chain, the logistical challenges here. This will pose a challenge for this administration, especially in an election year. But the president's message is he's going to pay for it. He wants Congress to back him, and they're putting all the resources out there that they can. And he already has his transportation secretary on site. He also said at the end of his remarks that he does plan to travel to the collapse site as soon as he's able to.
And Elizabeth Schulze is also there in Baltimore. Elizabeth, the president says 15,000 jobs rely on this bridge. Over 30,000 vehicles cross the bridge every day, and that's not even looking at the larger shipping impact. Now he says he's instructed the transportation secretary to move heaven and earth in order to get this port clear and running and get this bridge rebuilt as soon as possible. Any sense of a timeline on that and how big this project will be?
Well, Diane, we're talking about $80 billion of cargo that goes through this port every single year. And so that's why this effort to rebuild it is so paramount. But the port is saying that obviously right now there is no shipping going on. Nothing is going in and out. This is at a standstill until the cargo ship can be cleared. And that's something that initially they had said economists are projecting could take days. Obviously, it could take longer. And then you have to talk about the rebuilding effort. The highway itself needs to be rebuilt. The bridge needs to get rebuilt. So companies that rely on that transit route will have to find some alternatives. But the longer this goes on, the more disruptive it will be. Economists are telling me that they expect that if this is short and if you can get those funds and they can amplify this to get it done quickly, that could minimize the impact. There are alternative ports that can be used and other routes that can be used, but it does depend on getting this done critically. But of course, for now, the effort is on the search and rescue, and then it will turn toward that rebuilding effort to get the economic impact back on track, Diane.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you. Again, President Biden is now promising all the federal resources needed by Maryland and Baltimore after a cargo ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, sending people and parts of the bridge into the water. Right now, search and rescue efforts are underway with 6 people still unaccounted for, 2 rescued, 1 of those people in critical condition. And we heard the president saying, we are with you and we are going to stay with you for as long as it takes. Right now, we're going to return you to your regular programming. Our coverage continues on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. And David Muir will have the very latest on World News Tonight. I'm Diane Macedo in New York. Have a good day.
This has been a special report.
likely through a work session so that we can get council to review it and then begin the public outreach on the full plan.
By the full plan, you mean the targeted code assessments that were adopted in October?
It's the code amendments that have been proposed that were submitted in late January, but we want to make sure that we look at it comprehensively. So we've been working with plan inspection staff to understand the whole impact of what that means, again, from Title 18 as well. We just kicked off the comp plan as well. So we want to make sure that we understand how that fits, all the puzzle pieces, put the plan together, and then bring forward any code amendments that were presented, but also present to City Council what additional amendments may be required comprehensively for Title 20 as a whole.
So, Mr. Rodriguez, with respect, there were two segments of code amendments that were proposed that the council adopted back. Not the amendments weren't adopted, but the plan to implement them was adopted back in October. The first set was labeled quick fixes. These were code amendments that did not have to be done together with a comprehensive plan update, that didn't have to be done with a comprehensive rewrite of Title 18 or Title 20. These were supposed to be standalone, quick wins. They're labeled in staff's presentation as quick fixes that could be implemented quickly. There's another segment called longer term efforts, and it details that public outreach happening this summer and adoption of those into the future. But those are very clearly segmented in the rollout plan for this. Again, we were expecting, and I've presented to many of my neighborhood associations about this. They were very involved in the process of developing this. They worked together with the consultants on Onward Alameda and the Downtown, Uptown, and Surrounding Neighborhoods Plan, and directly with the consultant Clarion on this particular project. So they've put in a lot of time and effort into this as well. And frankly, we were all expecting for that to return to us for adoption by, today is the last meeting of March. It says March 2024. Again, with respect, I don't think that this has to be tied into an update of the comprehensive plan or an update of Title 20. That's more comprehensive. These are specific standalone code amendments that the council directed staff to prepare and present to us by today's meeting.
Understood, Representative. Again, we received the document late January, early February, so it's been through internal review. We'll be developing the plan, running that through the city manager through our strategic business review, SBR process, and bringing that forth to council. But again, I think from an implementation standpoint as well, plan inspections needs to be involved through that process, so we want to make sure that we get them online so these code amendments can be implemented. And that's part of the process that we're going through right now. We'll be bringing, again, likely through a work session, an updated plan with an updated timeline. We'll be happy to meet with you to share with you what has been submitted in draft form so you can see what those quick fixes are and see what's coming and give you a preview of that. But we want to make sure that we went through our process and that we present a plan that can be implemented and sustained.
We received the draft back, and after having some discussions with both planning and inspections in the capital improvements department, felt like we needed to do a little bit more with that before we would bring that forward to the city council. So we'll make sure that you see how we're progressing with that. I don't anticipate that taking too long before we're able to bring that back to the city council. We're certainly within the time frame we had initially talked about. You're correct. So we bring it back by the last meeting. I would ask that we'd have just a little bit more time to get that so that it's a much more comprehensive look at these at the targeted code amendments before we bring that forward to you all.
Yeah, again, I think it's fair if staff needs more time, but again, because it's a council adopted timeline, I would just ask that in the future you bring something to the council and say we need more time to look at this. We received the draft amendments back late, something like that. Because frankly, we haven't heard anything about this, and the public draft release was supposed to happen mid-November. I understand we didn't have it in mid-November because it didn't come back from the consultant.
No, and we didn't get the draft back until a little bit later as well from the consultant. So I agree, giving you an update on where we are with it to make sure that we're within the time frames appropriate, and we'll make sure we do that.
Do we have an anticipated time when the public outreach can begin? That was supposed to start early January. That's what I told to my constituents, to expect early January.
Yeah, we need to develop that plan again. We're working on it. I need to run it by the city manager through our internal process, and we'll be happy to share that with council again through via email, and then formally do a work session item to present that to you.
Okay. That's all my questions for now.
Thank you, Representative Canales. Representative Fierro.
Thank you, Mayor. Pushing the wrong button. Sorry.
No, thank you.
First, these amendment changes to the code amendments have such far, repercussions. And so I, for one, thank you for not bringing this to us earlier or half-baked. We've had examples of that in the past, like the short-term rental issues that we went through early on. I would encourage the city manager to continue to not bring things to the council half-baked. And so, Mr. Rodriguez, please continue to do your work and keep us informed and help us to keep our constituents safe and happy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Representative Hernandez.
No, I just wanted to reiterate that I agree with Representative Canales. Every time that we bring forward a resolution, it's not been addressed timely. And so what I would recommend, because there are timelines that we put forward similarly to this that have not come forward. And so as it relates to the code amendments, this is a big investment that the city of El Paso has made with these consultants. In addition to that, the time and effort of staff and the public vetting. And so these plans aren't just plans, as other folks have said here, just so that you can shelve them. These are plans that are going to improve neighborhoods and that they're going to help with completing neighborhoods, and they're going to be appropriately set the standards for neighborhoods so that we're not having to pay for them 20, 30 years down the road. And so I do want to reemphasize that this is a priority for my district as well. It should be for the entire city. I agree, don't bring something forward to us that's not complete, but please educate us who are very interested in making sure that our policies are sound, they're improved, they're being inclusive, they're complete neighborhoods, that we are holding the developers accountable so that they finish the neighborhoods appropriately, so that we're not having to do the work behind the scenes to put speed cushions, to put better sidewalks, to put trees, to put anything that a neighborhood needs, that they waive bike lanes. So right now your code allows for you to do all of those administrative amendments. We just waive all of our needs for our neighborhood. We're just waiving them administratively. I disagree with that. We need to have this plan forward. We need to take it seriously, because my assumption here is that we're just shelving this aside after we've made this incredible investment. We owe it to the taxpayer to make sure that this comes to fruition. In addition to that, what I would like to see, and this might be a practice during your SBR, is go back over the year, look at all the resolutions and all the timelines that we have put together, because I can name a few, but I've already asked for updates from the city manager, because I'm having to seek those updates because no one on your city management team is coming to us proactively to keep on with these timelines. If you can't achieve them, just communicate that. But there's got to be some kind of project management organization with all of these requests, because I'm not seeing it on my end. My hope is that you have it on your end. It's just not being communicated to us. But going back to this particular work, mixed-use development, reinvestment into neighborhoods, you're having a lot of development in the northeast, east side, and west side, where we're already experiencing long periods of traffic. We need to, like I'm saying, we need to get serious about this. I just want to reemphasize that if you're not taking it seriously, please do so. Thanks.
If I can respond, Mayor, that's the reason why we're doing the comprehensive review, because the quick fixes that were anticipated to come before council were focused on the uptown, downtown core area. And so really understanding what that means from a citywide standpoint and how we can roll some of those changes beyond that, and what other changes may be required to address the issues that Representative Hernandez was bringing forward, is the reason why we're taking this time. But we understand the timing component, Representative Hernandez, and we'll be looking at those resolutions as well. Thank you.
Well, and I want to respond to that because I don't think it's fair to say that we're not taking it seriously. We have done the work with the consultant. You don't have to look at staff. You can look to me. I know the draft is supposed to be done in this time frame. It's my responsibility to make sure I communicate that to you if that's not the case. I'll take the hit on this being pushed further, but I am not allowing our staff to bring it forward if I don't believe that the draft work that's been done is comprehensive enough. So I'm responsible for that, and I'll make sure that we bring that forward.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem, did you take yourself off, or were you next? Go ahead.
No, I just pushed the wrong button. Have you been asked for updates on this issue previously to this?
Not since the council made the approval of the, adopted the timeline. No, I have not.
Oh, thank you.
Representative Canales.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to emphasize one more time because I've heard a few times that the targeted amendments have been held back because of a need to look at citywide comprehensive amendments. I'm looking at slide 17 from the presentation that was given to the council in October. It lists the tier 1 targeted code amendments, and then it says in quotes, quick fixes. It says that they will address commonly cited issues that are expected to have broad support. Quick fixes can be used to test new concepts or enhance tools. And that is in advance of tier 2, the new tools, which is a more complex code update and other changes that warrant more in-depth discussion citywide. And so, again, we very deliberately, and when I say we, I don't mean the council. The council adopted this, but this was something that staff developed. Developed this 2-tier structure where the first tier would be implemented in the focused area, looking only at, it's the overlap of certain plan areas, the downtown and uptown and surrounding neighborhoods plan, the top incentive areas in the core of the city, the Onward Alameda Corridor plan. It's, I would say 90% of the area is contained entirely within District 8, with small areas looking like they branch into maybe District 2 and District 3. But the bulk of this is within District 8. Because these were supposed to be done as a test before the comprehensive rewrite. And so I just want to emphasize one more time, I don't think it's appropriate for these to be held back because they need to be incorporated into the citywide code rewrite effort. The whole point of these was to be done as a test before that. And that's what staff presented to the council, and that's what the resolution that the council adopted emphasized and affirmed. Again, we've gone through the process over several years now where the city has adopted the complete streets policy that plays into this, the TOD incentive policy that I know is being looked at, but that plays into this, Onward Alameda, downtown, uptown, surrounding neighborhoods plan, the infill and redevelopment policy, which was refreshed in the last couple of years. This is the implementation strategy for the findings of all of those plans. And we do face criticism all the time that the city pays for plans and then they sit on the shelf. I've been assuring people that that's not the case anymore. We have robust implementation planned. I've shown them this presentation from October, to try to put them at ease that we're spending all this money and we're asking them to invest all this time with the consultants, but this will be implemented, and here's the timeline for it. And that's why I'm bringing this forward. Like I can't stress enough that we are promising this publicly, and then I'm wary of us not delivering on it and losing the trust that we have tried to build recently. And again, that's my motivation for bringing this forward today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, and if it should have come back with an update, I understand that. I get concerned where we're not going to ask you any questions. We're just going to wait and trot it out in a council meeting and then ask for an update. And I just think it's bad policy to do that.
Thank you. And again, there's no one else on here. I want to thank you, and I think you all see the importance of it, and I think council would rather see it complete and ready to go instead of bringing something, I think, as Representative Fierro said, half-baked. But we would like, and I think you said you would do some updates coming up, so I appreciate that. And I think everybody up here that spoke got their point across, but we do appreciate that you did bring it, you're willing to bring it back when ready. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Prine, item 32.
Yes, sir. Item 32 is discussion and action to direct the city manager to facilitate the hosting of no less than 3 public community meetings with hybrid virtual participation options on the proposed amendment adjustments to impact fees to include presentations from the City Planning and Inspections Department and El Paso Water on the existing impact fee structure for water and wastewater services, the proposal to amend land use assumptions, the capital improvements plan, the calculated proposed impact fees, and the financial impact to ratepayers, and that such meeting shall be held before the scheduled public hearing on April 23rd, 2024. This item was placed by Representatives Hernandez and Canales.
Move to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Renee, can I ask you a question, sir?
And then we have questions.
And then you'll be, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was just going to make a statement, but I'm happy
Okay.
if you
yes,
would
ma'am.
like to use your
I
privilege
just,
to speak.
just want to ask a question. I know that we're looking at new impact fees and kind of calculating and see whether we'll change, will not change. So let's say I have a large development in part of town, and I've built 200 homes, and I still have 2,000 or 3,000, but I haven't brought the meters to this point because it's a planned community. If council adopts a higher rate, will that developer have to pay the higher rate?
Good morning, Mayor. Renee Leon, Legislative Liaison with El Paso Water. If the developer has not applied for a permit for those remaining lots, he would have to pay the higher rate at the time.
Whatever may be adopted.
Whenever, after
Right.
whatever council does, the new rates would be in effect at the time that he pulls those permits.
So any developer that has lots, but they have not applied yet, would be subject to any changes, whether it's a planned community of thousands of homes or somebody that has subdivided thousands of lots, they will be subject to the higher pay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If they are in an impact fee zone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Representative Hernandez?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure that the council is aware that this item is just to ask for public community meetings. We're not asking for public hearings because that triggers other things here at City Council. The language is very specific just to talk about public community meetings, and so had a conversation with city management as well with El Paso Water. The reason why there is an appetite for this is because we're hearing from members of the community that they'd like to hear more directly from our land assumption models and including El Paso Water. The type of meetings, I think we could, set that discretion to whatever works best for El Paso Water. We're very appreciative that you're willing to continue the conversation with the public with open dialogue and transparency. I think what's been a great model that's worked in the past for community meetings is open houses. So that because this is very technical, that I think it would allow for that one-on-one with different residents who have specific questions, especially if they live in a impact area and how they could be potentially impacted. Of course, if they're planning to move to an area, because this is all new development area. And so again, the purpose is just to seek a meeting so that we can share the information about the process, land use assumptions, and the proposed rates by the consultant of El Paso Water. And then after those meetings are concluded, during our discussions at the time of public hearing, I would ask, what kind of feedback you got from those meetings, both from our planning department as well as El Paso Water. But would love to continue the dialogue with the public. This is a very important issue, and we know the public could benefit from hearing more directly from El Paso Water and our planning department. So thank you for that cooperation,
Yes,
Renee.
of course. And just for everyone's
Thank you,
benefit,
ma'am.
I think Representative Hernandez captured it perfectly. We're planning 3 community meetings, one near each impact fee zone, so that would be west, northeast, central, and east. We'll do it ahead of the April 23rd public hearing, and we'll just try to bring as many people into the fold as possible to share information.
Thank you, sir. Representative Canales?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here, Renee. I just want to be extra clear here too. You're not our staff.
Yes.
We're not directing you to do this. I appreciate that El Paso Water is willing to do this. The direction was to our staff to help facilitate meetings, and we're grateful that you're willing to help present and take care of those meetings. I think they're important because we've gotten a lot of questions from the public about what does this even mean? What is an impact fee? It's something that doesn't come up very often. It's every few years, and it's also very highly technical. So I think it's just a subject that a lot of people don't know a whole lot about. And this will help people to get their questions answered, to understand the decision that the council is going to have to make, and to just understand development a little bit better and what it, what the impact of impact fees.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
We're already in coordination with planning to try to get the information distilled as easily as possible so that the public can hear it, can understand it, and can be informed when it comes time for the public hearing. So we're working with Kevin Smith, with Philip Patui staff, and we'll make sure that everything's easily understandable. A truncated version of the hour-and-a-half presentations that we've given here before.
Thank you.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Representative Furo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's no secret that I'm personally opposed to enhancing the county and Horizon City's tax base by having these homes move on to those areas at the expense of city taxpayers. Would you mind, though, Mr. Leon, sharing whatever presentation you plan on showing the public with us, the council, before
Yes,
the
sir.
presentation?
Yes, sir. Once
Thank you.
we put it together, we should have it complete by next week, and I'll send that to everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Representative Molinat.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Leon, thank you very much for being here. And I just wanted to know who is going to actually take the lead in these presentations.
El Paso Water will take the lead.
Okay, and you
go
ahead.
It's our study, so it's our information that we want to present. So we'll go ahead and take the lead, but we are going to work in close coordination with city staff.
Okay, so you have already identified 3 different sites. Specifically, you already have a site for the Northeast. You mentioned Central Northeast.
We haven't booked any venues pending today's vote, but preliminarily we're looking at the Don Haskins Center on the west, probably the Veterans Park Recreation Center in the northeast, and the Far East Regional Park on the east side.
Okay, and do you know the format of that meetings?
We're going to do an open house style format, so we're going to have stations with boards and information and staff ready to answer questions, and attendees can go from station to station, get information, get their questions answered, and it'll be a very, very easy to manage format rather than sitting down and presenting information for an hour and a half.
Well, I respectfully disagree. I heard many times from different constituents whether they go to, let's just say, open house, whether it's TxDOT, and I'm not putting them down, or any other city meetings where they're open house style, if you will. And you're just free to roam and ask questions, and you see diagrams. They also ask you to, hey, put a sticker here. If you accept this, put a blue sticker, or put a green sticker. If you don't like this, put a red sticker. You know, to me, that's not necessarily the best. The feedback that we receive doesn't work. People are reluctant to participate. Well, first of all, they're reluctant to attend, and second, they're reluctant to even participate in that manner. So I would like to see, if possible, with Mr. Ballou and your team and your effort, to go back to open house, or excuse me, where you sit down, there's a PowerPoint presentation, it's English and Spanish, there's question and answer period, and people get to understand, maybe even passing out some literature of some sort, so that when people leave, they have something to take home. If they have any questions, they have a format that, hey, I can call this person, I can respond by sending an email, something like that.
I think we can pick the best of both formats for this. The trouble we've had with sit-down formal presentations is someone can walk in late, misinformation. It's a lot of information, especially on this topic, to take in, which is why we feel the open house staff to attendee format is better. We can provide some sort of fact sheet so that people can walk away with the key facts on the issue. And another benefit of the open house is people can walk in whenever they want and start the process, rather than having to walk in at the beginning and stay through the end. But what our staff can do to make sure that everyone feels as informed as possible is give a presentation on that station rather than just sit there and wait for questions to be asked. They can go through the information, make sure everyone understands it, answer questions on the spot, and if someone needs a little more time, staff is there to talk to them a little longer.
And I know it's probably too early, but do you have a day of the week?
No, sir, we don't yet.
Okay. Is it be possible if you could come back to us as city representatives here at a future city council meeting during that same time period to get the announcement out, to get more feedback, more input from the community as well?
Sure, we can work with your office or with Representative Hernandez or Canales' office to get on the agenda. But even before it makes it onto agenda, we can send the information directly to you and your staff and if you want to publicize it that way, that'll help us get attendees there.
And Mr. Leon, I'd personally like to be briefed by El Paso Water before you start the meetings. Thank you.
We can get that arranged.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections.
Good morning, sir.
So we'll work with El Paso Water staff and our PIO office to arrange those meetings and determine that, and as well as work with the representative offices as well in case I can piggyback off of those meetings as well.
Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you.
With that, Ms. Prine?
Yes, sir. There's a motion made by Representative Hernandez, seconded by Representative Canales to approve item 32. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Bill.
That brings us to item 33, and this is discussion and action to authorize the expenditure of District 5 discretionary funds in an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the Office of District 5 to attend and participate at the 2024 National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials 41st Conference serving municipal purpose by enhancing education and government participation, covering our municipal vision and strategic goals. This item was placed by Representative Salcido.
Motion to approve.
There is a motion made by Representative Salcido, seconded by Representative Fierro to approve item 33. On that motion, call for the vote. Item 33? I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't have you on the list.
What'd you say?
Public comment? Ms. Turner would like to speak on this item, Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I wasn't going to try to get up until I knew I was going to be able to speak. I'm not picking on District 5, but in September of last year, there was $4,000 to go to TML conference. Now there's $5,000 going to this conference. If these trips serve the city, then I think it's best that my council put a line item in the budget for this and not come from discretionary funds. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. There's a motion and a second.
Yes, Mayor, the voting session is open, Council. In the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. That brings us to page number 11, to items 34 and 35. These are the introduction of ordinances. First reading.
First reading.
There's a motion made by Representative Rivera, seconded by Representative Fierro, and this is to approve the first reading of ordinances, items 34 and 35. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session, and that motion passes unanimously. The next item is number 38, and this is discussion and action on the award of solicitation 2024-0039 to Mirador Enterprises, Inc. The project will consist of a partial demolition of the adjacent Lion Tail Manake exhibition and rebuilding of foundation for relocated enclosure, reconnecting the public path between exhibitions and maintaining accessibility standards, provide 2 viewing shelters adjacent to public path with controlled temperature to host 2 Komodo dragons, exterior habitat, and back of house improvements. This is 36, sir.
You're up.
Good afternoon. Derek Russell with Purchasing Strategic Sourcing Department. So the strategic goal for this item is goal number 4, linked to subsection 4.1. This was a competitive sale proposal for 2024-0039 Komodo Dragon exhibits. There were 18 views online. 3 bids were received, all coming from local suppliers, and no protests were received for this requirement. And we are recommending award as indicated to Mirador Enterprises, Inc., the highest ranked offer based on the evaluation factors for this solicitation. I believe they have a presentation.
Move to approve.
You want to see a presentation? There's a motion and a second. Go ahead, Representative Molinar.
How many times has this vendor done business with the city, specifically at the zoo?
Specifically at the zoo, none as of yet. They only have 2 other projects. One was the MSC Fitness Center, and then the other project they awarded was the Sun Metro Dire Brio mini station, sir.
Thank you for that information.
Ms. Prine?
There is a motion made by Representative Canales, seconded by Representative Fierro to approve item 36. On that motion, call for the vote. End the voting session, and that motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item 37, and this is discussion and action on the award of solicitation 2024-0075 barricade services to Contractors Barricade Service, Inc., DBA Apache Barricade and Sign. This contract will provide the City of El Paso Parks and Recreation Department traffic control equipment and zone protection for city events. There is a motion made by Alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molinar, seconded by Representative Canales to approve item 37. On that motion, call for the vote. Voting session is open. End the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. The next item is number 38. Item 38 is discussion and action that the Managing Director of Purchasing and Strategic Sourcing be authorized to issue purchase orders for solicitation 2024-0411 hardwood chips for Rhinoceros Bark Boys, Inc.
Motion approved.
There is a motion made by Representative Fierro. We do have public comment.
Go ahead.
We have Frank Nugent. Frank Nugent. He's not in the queue, ma'am. I don't see him in the queue.
What's
Did you want to go ahead and
Yes, ma'am.
proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The motion was made by Representative Fierro, seconded by Alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molinar to approve item 38. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session. And the motion passes 6-2. Representatives Hernandez, Molinar, Salcido, Rivera, Canales voting aye. Representatives Kennedy, Acevedo voting nay. The motion does carry. That brings us to item 39, and this is discussion and action on the award of solicitation 2024-0024 security services for city parks to Night Eyes Protective Services.
Second.
There's a motion made by Representative Rivera, seconded by Representative Fierro to approve item 39. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. Item number 40 is a public hearing on an ordinance changing the zoning from PI Plan Industrial to C3 Commercial and imposing conditions at 1150 Vista de Oro Drive.
Representative Rivera.
Mr. Garcia, was there any opposition to this?
Good morning, Mayor, Council, Rogas Plan Inspections. There was no opposition to this.
Sorry, but
no opposition received.
I'm getting it, and I'm not drinking coffee, okay? And so, but support for this thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what are you thinking?
Thank you. Motion to approve.
Representative Acevedo.
On this, I was looking through the backup, and Can you give me more of a description on what charter school is going to be built?
We as staff don't have that detailed information.
We just know it's a charter school.
That's what's been, I'm sorry?
We just know that it's a charter school.
Correct. That's one of the uses that would be permitted in this proposed C3 zoning. That would just be one use of all other uses that would be submitted in C3. That would be allowed in C3.
Yeah, and I talked to Representative Rivera about this. I just fundamentally, I don't think that we should be approving charter schools. I think that a lot of these networks are not really having great oversight, and I have a lot of concerns with that, so I'm not going to approve it, and I think that...
Just to provide some clarity, these particular schools would be permitted in all districts, but your comment...
No, I get it, and that's why I said the comment to Mr. Rivera, because 99.9% of the time I would be like, yes, it's your district, and I wanted to respectfully let him know that that's why I was doing that, and just wanted to put that out there, so I'm sorry.
I respected that. I tell you, I respected that. Sure, thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. There's a motion made by Representative Rivera, seconded by Representative Fierro, to approve the ordinance. Excuse me. On that motion, call for the vote. And the voting session. And the motion passes 6-1. Alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molinar not present, and Representative Acevedo voting nay. The next item is 41, and this is a public hearing on an ordinance changing the zoning from R4 residential to A2 apartment and opposing a condition at 4707 Atlas Avenue.
Mr. Acevedo, it's yours.
Move to approve.
And we do have public comment from Mr. Ray Mancera. Good morning, Mr. Mancera. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Mayor City Council. I'm Ray Mancera, and in accordance with the lobby ordinance, I represent the client. We concur with staff comments, City CPC, and the Plan Department. Thank you so much.
With that, we have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. The motion was made by Representative Acevedo, seconded by Representative Fierro. And this is to approve item 41. On that motion, call for the vote. And the voting session. And that motion passes unanimously. Item 42 is a public hearing on an ordinance changing the zoning from RF Ranch and Farm and R4 Residential to AO Apartment Office. And this is at 1165 Ranger Street.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion made by Representative Rivera, seconded by Representative Salcido to approve item 42. There's no public comment on that motion. Call for the vote. In the voting session, and that motion passes unanimously. Item 43 is a public hearing on an ordinance amending Title 15, Section 15.08.160, mobile billboards, ending the mobile billboard pilot program, and allowing mobile billboard permits to be issued on a yearly basis. And we do have public comment?
Ms. Turner.
Yes.
Question 1, how much are we charging? Question 2, can we put a requirement that the vehicles used for these mobile billboards be licensed in the county of El Paso, Texas, and not have an out-of-state license? Is that possible?
Raul Garcia Plan Inspections, again, in terms of the fee, there is a $1,500 yearly fee that's assessed. And I'm sorry, ma'am, if you can repeat your other questions.
The other question is, I see a lot of out-of-state license plates used by businesses in El Paso. So can we make an amendment to this that if you're going to have this, that you have to license your vehicle within this county? So they'll be paying the road taxes and such, since they'll be driving up and down all our roads.
Now,
That is-
can we actually, I don't think we can actually restrict somebody to register their vehicle if they're not residents of of the city of El Paso. I mean, if they're residents of New Mexico and we're telling them they have to, I don't think that's within our jurisdiction to make somebody register a vehicle within a county.
I believe you're correct, sir. Just to provide additional information, provision of insurance
Right.
is definitely a requirement and is written into the ordinance as well. A list of other mitigation measures requirements that are written into the ordinance as well.
Yes, sir.
To provide, allow us to oversight and keep an eye on these.
And
these
insurance
ordinances.
and
Yes,
things
sir.
like that, yes, sir. Agree.
Can we at least get a road use fee then?
No.
Well, look,
Brokerage fee.
I have to pay for your garbage trucks.
Franchise fee, maybe.
I have to pay for your garbage trucks on the roads.
Talking about a
even
franchise
though
fee.
I
Did you say franchise or brokerage?
have a private pickup,
Right.
but I still have to pay for your garbage trucks on my water bill. So a road use fee to me is fair. If you're going to be driving up and down in the traffic,
Right.
polluting our air, I think this would be a small fee.
And I think that's the permit fee that they're gonna pay. You can call
Well,
it whatever.
that's
but
just
still
so
have to
they can
pay
drive
permit.
up and down. I'm asking for some additional income.
Well, the
We're
permit
always
will cost
looking
them.
for additional income, and this is a way to get it.
Yeah, they'll have to pay for the permit. Representative, I'm gonna go with Representative Canales.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand there are only 2 license holders currently who are operating under the
That's
pilot
correct, sir.
program.
Yes.
I did just a cursory search online yesterday, and I found, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 companies that advertise mobile billboard services in El Paso. That's El Paso. Can you tell me the 2 current license holders?
I believe it's El Paso Billboards and Lone Wolf Trucking.
Okay, Lone Wolf is not one of the ones I found, so that's an 11th. But I found El Paso Billboard Trucks, Sun City Billboards, Texas Mobile Advertising, American Mobile Ads, Indicium Display Network, Blue Line Media, Rolling Box Media, MIG Advertising and Mobile Billboards, EP LED Mobile Billboard Trucks, and Do It Outdoors Media, who the last one actually has an active job listing for a driver in El Paso right now. What actions have we taken to enforce unlicensed companies operating during the pilot period?
So there have been code enforcement actions, procedures that have been performed in the past, and we that's something that we can definitely continue to get these businesses to come in and comply.
Do you know how many citations we've issued to to businesses for operating without the proper license?
Off the top of my head, that'd be difficult, but I know there's multiple. There's more than one, definitely.
Okay, is there any enforcement mechanism that's built into the code in terms of what's currently the pilot and is being proposed to flip over?
Yeah, I
to
mean,
the-
ultimately, the permit can be revoked at the discretion of the city if there's any type of non-compliance. In terms of overall, the businesses you mentioned, there has been our code enforcement established process would kick in. And
Right, but I'm not asking about revocation of the permit for
Mhm.
permit holders. I'm talking about enforcement of non-permit holders operating without the license. What is the mechanism that we
It'd be
have
our code enforcement process that may ultimately end up in front of court, in front of a judge.
But it's a nuisance violation or
Zoning
is there-
code, or in this case, code violation, Title 15 violation.
And that's a misdemeanor?
I'm sorry?
Is it a misdemeanor to operate without the license?
I'm not.
Just a citation? Yeah, it's a Class C. And what is the fine for the Class
I
C?
believe that's at the
citation?
discretion of the judge, if I'm not mistaken.
A maximum, 500 maximum?
Traditionally, most of our violations are $500. I don't know the specifics for this one, and then there's higher, but I don't think this one falls under the higher.
Okay. I want to point out too, currently, and this is as far as I understand, there may be one other outlier out there that I wasn't able to find. But as far as I understand, during the period of the pilot program, El Paso, the city of El Paso is the only municipality or county or state in the United States that allows mobile billboards on our right-of-way, and has a program that licenses them. Clark County, Nevada, which is where the Las Vegas Strip is located, had a limited run pilot program on the Strip only, and they terminated that pilot program because it was found to be too dangerous. They were seeing too many distracted driving incidents. There is not a single other municipality in the United States that allows this. I find it difficult to believe the justification that we've had no complaints, and so it's not a problem. I think people aren't calling in to complain that they were distracted while they were driving by a billboard truck. That's not who would they even call. That's not something that people typically call in. I don't think people are even aware that these are prohibited in most of the United States. I've personally have seen them while driving. I think I've seen some of the unlicensed ones while driving. They're not the two companies that you mentioned. And I personally find them incredibly distracting. At a time when we are taking efforts to pass complete streets policies and working with partners like TxDOT to reduce traffic fatalities, I think this brings us entirely in the opposite direction. It's adding distractions to the road. Fixed billboards they're fine. They're distracting enough. They, for that reason, are very strictly licensed by the state, especially on state highways and other highway right-of-way. They're very specifically limited in number and spacing to ensure that they're not causing undue distraction to drivers. I think allowing billboards to be mobile and not just mobile in terms of repositioning them, but actively mobile, driving on the streets with vehicles, is a real threat for distracted driving and will lead to incidents into the future, even if it hasn't during the course of the pilot period. So for that reason, I don't think I'm able to support this today. And I feel for the operators who have moved into the city during the pilot, but it's a pilot program for a reason. And I'm just not convinced by the success of it. Convinced of the success of it during the pilot period.
Yes, sir. No, and thank you for your comments. Just to add just a little bit more context, that's why you see all the provisions and restrictions and requirements in this ordinance, taking into account what's happening in Clark County and other places.
Okay, are you aware of, during the pilot period, any other cities who have enacted anything similar to what we're proposing?
We didn't look closely at that, no, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Representative Salcido.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Raul, for this presentation. Quick questions. I know this was a pilot. Mr. Garcia, did you have can you give us some findings of the pilot program? Anything that was notable? What did they do good? What did they do wrong or wasn't appropriate? How many citations did we get? I mean, I just want to know a little bit more about.
Right. I mean, we really didn't encounter too many issues. Again, the opportunity is there for 3 permits. Of those 3, only 2 have been claimed. Each permit allows 3 trucks. Of the permits that have been issued, neither one of them have the 3 trucks. One of them has 2, one of them has 1. So we really haven't seen any issues in terms of the people coming in to apply for these permits. And we still have that 1 available permit that's open, I guess, giving a little glimpse into the demand for this type of business.
Great. And then I know that during the pilot, we only allowed 2 operators. Now that if it does pass and it's not a pilot anymore, it opens it opens to everybody to come in.
So the cap for 3 operators will remain. Yes, ma'am.
And I think my last question also is in regards to enforcement. As Representative Canales mentioned, it's a little concerning to see that there is other companies advertising, right? And so as this pilot program is already commencing and let's say it goes in effect, I want to make sure we're collecting, right? That people are performing business here in El Paso, that the city is getting its fair share. I know that you mentioned enforcement on what procedures you all are doing in order to combat those bad, no, I don't want to call them bad operators, just operators that are not complying with the city of El Paso. What are you all doing in regards to that?
We can definitely look at these advertisements. Obviously, we can't control what other businesses or people advertise, put out there, but we can definitely take a look and follow up within our guidelines of our code enforcement process.
And I guess if I could suggest, and I don't know how we are doing it currently, I know that since it's a very small group, you're saying three operators, right? And they're going to have a list of who their customers are. And I know that it will help us as code enforcement is seeing these billboards, right? We'll know who their customer is. And if we do see a billboard that does not have a customer that's on their roster, it can help, I think.
Correct.
I don't know if that's a way that we could definitely look at finding out how we can enforce this, just so we can not allow that to happen. And I think second to that would be it's a class misdemeanor, right? Which is, I think, 500 a fine.
Maximum.
And I wanted to see if that's something we can definitely look at. When it comes to business, I've also learned that cost comes as a cost of business to some businesses, meaning they'll perform with illegally because they just consider this to be a cost of for them to do business. So we want to make sure that that fee has a little bit more teeth, so discourage vendors that we have not been part of this process, and they're not a part of our network that should not be performing business in the city of El Paso. So those are just some suggestions. I think we need to look at the fee. It needs to always have more teeth. I think it really does invite operators that are not in our network to operate. So just some suggestions, and thank you so much for sharing.
Representative Salcido, I couldn't agree with you more on that. It's just built into everyday cost, absolutely. With that, we do have a motion, no?
Yes, the motion was made by Representative Rivera, seconded by Representative Fierro to approve item 43. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session, council, please refrain from side conversations. On that, in the voting session, and the motion passes 6-1. Representative Canales voting nay and Representative Hernandez not present. That brings us to item 44, and this is a public hearing on an ordinance granting a special privilege license to Centro de Salud Familiar La Fe, Inc. to allow the surface encroachment of an existing backflow preventer over city right-of-way located in the alley behind the property located at 700 South Ochoa Street.
Move to approve.
There is a motion made by Representative Canales, seconded by Representative Salcido to approve item 44. There's no public comment.
Already.
On that motion, call for the vote. End the voting session, and that motion passes unanimously. Representative Hernandez not present. The next item is 45, and this is discussion and action on a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a Chapter 380 Economic Development Program Agreement between the City of El Paso and Eaton Corporation in support of a development project located at 1 Helen of Troy in El Paso, Texas, 79912.
Thank you. Second. Good morning, Philip. Thank you for joining us, sir. There's a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. There's a motion made by Representative Fierro, seconded by alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molinar to approve item 45. On that motion.
Mayor, I had requested to speak.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I would like to see the presentation. I think when, again, I'm supportive of this. I think it's a great thing that we're bringing in Eaton and that they're taking over at the property where they are. It makes a lot of sense. But I think when we're talking about an economic development incentive of this size, it's beneficial for the public to hear more about it.
No, I think you're right. When we see it, we'll see it with very impressive, and being the Helen of Troy location and all that, it's kind of been a staple property in our community. So, yes, I agree with. Go ahead, ma'am.
You got it. Karina Brazgala, Economic and International Development. As stated on the agenda, this is the approval of a Chapter 380 agreement for Eaton Corporation. This is a expansion project in Northwest El Paso, as mentioned at the Helen of Troy building. The term sheet for this was approved in September of last year, so all of the agreement terms have already been cleared by council, and the agreement is in alignment with that. So, project aligns with the city's 380 incentive policy, targeting our capital investment, quality job creation, retention, target industry, and supply chain services. The project aligns with the Texas Economic Development Fund policy, which is where we will be funding the training and property tax rebates. And then the incentive value and cost of services, the expansion provides a net benefit to the city. That is always one of our criteria when we are looking at incentive agreements, and that is no different with this one. So, right up front, staff's recommendation is for approval of the Chapter 380 agreement as it aligns with the term sheet already approved. Eaton Corporation, this particular expansion, so Eaton has an active 380 executed in November of 2018. They are in compliance with that agreement. They've got a team of over 85,000 professionals worldwide and 200 current employees in El Paso. They're a major employer in our region, and they have some recent changes in power delivery systems, which is part of their operations. That has driven a substantial manufacturing expansion. So in addition to maintaining their existing facility, they will be have acquired the Helen of Troy complex. That is Class A office space, warehousing, and 50 plus acres of land, including 10 acres of undeveloped land, which could be used for future expansions. This expansion makes it the company's largest footprint in North America, joining Schneider Electric and a few others where we are the largest footprint for those companies. Project metrics for the expansion: minimum capital investment of $29 million, creating 575 full-time employees. 75 of those will be salaried, 500 of those are manufacturing jobs, and an average salary of $43,000 plus benefits, so meeting and exceeding our median county wage minimum metric. Workforce training will be an investment of $2.3 million to both attract, potentially workers from outside the region, but also upskill and train the workers that we already have here in El Paso for those manufacturing jobs. And then at their current operation and at this expansion, they will retain those 300 FTEs at least median area county wage. A little bit more about Eaton Corp. They are a power management company. They do business in more than 175 countries. They have energy efficiency products and services, so they manage electrical, hydraulic, and mechanical power. Their focus is really on safety, sustainability, and giving people the tools to use power more efficiently. They work in different segments of across industries, looking at electrical products, electrical systems, aerospace, defense, vehicles, and then recently e-mobility. Companies are often IT services, aviation, and electrical and electronic manufacturing make up the bulk of their clients. They've also had a recent partnership with Microsoft. So Eaton is outfitting all of Microsoft's data centers with grid interactive UPS, which is a way to monitor and react in real time to electric grid changes and help balance services on utilities. So the current facility is at 78,000 Trade Center, Expansion Facility 1, Helen of Troy. Anticipated investment, $70 million. The building acquisition is part of that. Capital investment, $29 million. And of course, District 1. They are also a publicly traded Fortune 500 company. Again, global, a strong presence already in El Paso and Juarez, so we're excited to continue being a supportive partner to them. Here's an overview of the total city incentives. It's just around $3.4 million, and we are being matched by the county. So incremental property tax rebate, 15 years at 80%. Construction materials and permit fee rebates during that construction period as they do tenant improvements to the existing building. And then a workforce training rebate during that ramp-up period. Again, investing in our workforce, training and upskilling folks for those jobs, and also training existing employees. County matching us, and then there's a skills training grant in the county portion as well. Total local incentive around $4.5 million, about 6.4% of company investment. And on the city side, those incentives will be sourced from the Texas Economic Development Fund. Here's a quick overview of economic impact. Besides all of the kind of qualitative, the investment in the area, continuing to have that presence, the work that they do in the supply chain sector, there's also a direct and indirect impact from your jobs, your salaries, right, as people are employed, where they spend that money. So we wanted to highlight that as well, that under expanded current and then expanded operations, so total operation will have 875 direct jobs. You'd expect some spinoff of that, and then the salaries have a spinoff, so $1.3 million back to the economy over a 15-year incentive term. In terms of direct benefits, we always show this slide, so the community net tax benefit, so this is after incentives to local taxing entities. The city will still expect to see a little under $1.4 million. And then, of course, Sun Metro via sales tax, $804,000. The county, UMC, EPCC, and then EPISD collecting about $1.4 million. Net tax benefit over the incentive term, $6 million to all local taxing entities. And that concludes my presentation. Again, we're recommending approval. This is very exciting. They've been working diligently with us since the approval of the term sheet. Again, they're in compliance with their existing agreement. A wonderful company, really supportive of a lot of our work in this sector. And as mentioned by the mayor, a good use of that existing building.
And thank you for the presentation. I know it's all in our backup, but I do thank you for the presentation. And we got a motion and a second.
Yes, Mayor, the motion was made by Representative Fierro, seconded by alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molina to approve. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting sessions, and the motion passes unanimously. Representative Hernandez not present. Mayor, it is noon. May we move to call to the public?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. The El
Thank you, ma'am.
Paso City Council is a local government charged with serving the citizens of the city, and the meetings must be focused on the meeting at charge. The city council meetings are public meetings under the Texas Open Meetings Act. Public comment is an accommodation and not a requirement of city council. All persons in attendance are expected to display civility and decorum that is respectful to other persons without the use of insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language. Public comment will not be used for personal attacks against the person or group's character or integrity which are not pertinent to city business, nor may any member of the public use this forum for political statements or campaigning. Please note that during call to the public, the city council may not deliberate or decide any subject that is not on the agenda. However, council may propose that a topic brought forth be posted on a future agenda. This afternoon, we have 7 members of the public that signed up to speak. The first person is Elizabeth Crawford. Ms. Crawford's topic is abortion as discrimination against females and the disabled. Good afternoon, Ms. Crawford. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, and thank you. Good afternoon.
Good
We're
afternoon,
told
ma'am.
in John. Good afternoon, sir. We're told in John chapter 1 of the Lord Jesus that all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. God is the creator. March is designated as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. March is also designated as Women's History Month. Does having a disability make a person unworthy of living? Does being female make a person unworthy of living? Statistically, an enormous percentage of babies diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted. In our nation, it's possibly well over 50%. Some nations in Western Europe, Denmark, Ireland, is between 98 and 100%. I spoke recently with a young lady from India who told me that one of her siblings was aborted simply for being female. In Asia, it's very common for couples, and here in our land also, people from different ethnic backgrounds to abort someone simply because they're female. The largest number of femicides around the world are not those committed in Juarez, horrific as that may be. The largest number is the slaughter of baby girls in the womb. It's time for us as people to stop playing God, to stop saying who deserves to live and who doesn't. We're told in Revelation 4:11, "You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you have created all things, and for your pleasure they are and were created." Thank you so much. Hope you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Stephen Strummer.
I don't see him, ma'am.
I don't see him either. We'll move on to Patricia Osmond. Ms. Osmond's topic is ethics violations, mismanagement, self-dealing, and misappropriation by individuals paid by tax dollars. Good afternoon, Ms. Osmond.
Good afternoon,
We'll
ma'am.
ask you to refrain from personal attacks, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, last city council meeting, we did a little follow the bouncing ball with documents I gave all of you. This table had them as well, and they were not attacks. What they were proof that the city's management teams are not actually doing their job of managing, because what you are supposed to do is ensure that those under you are abiding by the rules of whether it's a corporation or the city of El Paso. Those are ethics rules. You can't steal something, no misappropriation of funds. You know, there's certain rules all of us should be living by in regards to just, the reason why we have laws. But unfortunately, it's very evident that certain purchasing departments, they don't check whether employees are receiving bids, even from their own departments. Direct supervisors doing that. Directors not checking. Deputy city managers not checking. Hence why we need to make sure that there's an extensive search, and a good one, for the person that's going to replace Mr. Weston as the interim. Okay? I gave you all other documents in regards to the MPC and the plan that was put out by Capital Improvement, which shows a right-of-way over here at the Union Plaza. We've got the federal government that wants to invest in our community, wants to add 2 lines from El Paso to Albuquerque, which New Mexico has been trying to do the railroad down here for years. But the federal government wants to do it, and then a direct line from El Paso to Dallas-Fort Worth. Great economic development.
I don't know if she's talking about
okay?
one paste.
But instead, you know what? They gave you all a plan that didn't even check with the Railroad Commission. So I don't see what those employees are doing, or the management above them checking that it came to you all properly. But instead, y'all are just rubber stamping solicitations, okay, from whatever department. And I wonder if, talking about Bible verses, let's go with Matthew 19:24. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So maybe we should wonder why people are getting all these solicitations, because quite frankly, there's some people that aren't going to end up in the kingdom, since we're really good about praying. And I love Miss Crawford's, constant prayers.
Thank you, Ms. Osmond.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next speaker is Lisa Turner. Ms. Turner's topic is handicap parking around City Hall enforcement. She will be followed by Ron Como. Good afternoon again, Ms. Turner.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor Council. Let's
Ms.
talk
Turner.
parking. How many of your employees use the parking around City Hall on Tuesday so they don't have to pay somewhere else? And who are all the people who park over in the area that you set aside for people who are doing business with the city? I mean, the cars are there all day. Who are they? Do they work for you? Are they working somewhere else? Because if they're working for you, if they're working somewhere else, they don't belong in that lot. That's not a parking lot for employees. It's not a parking lot for other businesses. It's a parking lot for those who come down here to do business with you. Now, I get upset about this because, I'll be driving around at Sam's waiting for somebody to pull out of the disabled parking lot so I can get in safely, get my scooter down, get it off, get it inside. Same thing for if I go up to Albertsons. And the funny thing is, I'll see all the carts for those who are disabled, but I won't see other disabled people in there using them. So my question is who are these people parking in disabled spots who apparently, quote, my observation, don't meet the requirements to have that tag in the first place? Why are they parking there? I mean, it's difficult. I hear back. I hear a lot of noise. Pardon me. It's difficult trying to find a place to park when you go. You see people walking around in Sam's. They're on their feet for over an hour. They're self-checking out. They're pushing that big load out. And they're putting everything in their car. And they're in the handicap spot. Excuse me, but if you're handicapped, you're not going to be able to do that. I mean, if you have problems with breathing, you're going to be sucking a lot of air, or you'll be on oxygen. If you're on oxygen, it's easy to see because you got the thing up there in your nose. You know, it's difficult. Sometimes I have to get further down in a parking lot and not take one space, but I have to take up several spaces simply for me to be able to get to my car, get my groceries in, and get my scooter on the lift safely. And while we're talking about this, downtown is not handicap accessible if you're in a wheelchair or if you're using a scooter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's not that good. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ron Como. Mr. Como's topic is animal services. He will be followed by Barbara Valencia and Mark Fierro. Good afternoon, Mr. Como. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon. I know you missed me last week.
Thank you for the candy, though.
You're welcome. It's good stuff. You know, I came back and I was delivering that stuff, and I ran into I consider it a problem. I was talking to a gentleman, and I asked him about the list I gave you of the HOS programs that are still in place at our shelter. I was asked which ones. The first one to come to mind is the disastrous finder to foster, that we're having all these missing strays running around. The conversation went, let's see, what was it now? We cannot pick up all the strays. I believe they were told it was an open shelter. The next thing that happened was I was told that it doesn't go against the no-kill plans. Well, if you look at the one that they say they're on, it is an open admission shelter, not a limited intake. And he's already admitted that that's a way to limit intake. 2 strikes. We had a short conversation, and then the comment was made, because I made the comment about the 46,000 strays that weren't picked up over the period of 4 years. If you want to narrow it down with just the present director, if you round it off for 22 and 23, and the part of 22 was 20,000 strays that were left unaccounted for on the streets, whatever you want to call it. They're strays. They're not owned. They're not unowned. They're strays. Okay. I was astounded at the fact that he said he didn't know where I got the numbers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've said several times that these numbers that we're giving you come directly from the El Paso Animal Services Shelter reports. So I'm going to explain it out a little further. We take 2019, the 12 months live intake. We add it up. We do the same thing with 2020, subtract to see what the difference is, 21, 22, and 23. It's not that hard, but you have to look at shelter reports. The other thing is, I wasn't here for the new gentleman that was here. I understand he worked for the SPCA in Houston. SPCA is totally different than a city shelter. We've already agreed we had no issues in 17, 18, and 19, and we need to go back to that plan and put it in place. I'm honestly really not interested in plans from the city of Houston, which has the worst stray problem in Texas. We have a plan that works. We need to put it completely back in place and stop the messing around. It's time, please.
Thank you, Mr. Como.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Barbara Valencia. Ms. Valencia's topic is animal services, negative outcome. Good afternoon, Ms. Valencia. Please refrain from personal attacks, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Tonight we're having beans for dinner, everybody, so if you want to come, be my guest. Okay, when you add up all the lost animals in the Animal Services Director's audit, there are upwards of 800 lost animals represented here. I couldn't bring 800 animals in here, it wouldn't fit, but this is to give you an idea. Those are the missing animals in the foster care program. But we are not done yet. Now we need to add the 841 animals missing from the last 2 years that are not included in his audit. All these animals gone. Animals never to be seen again, and the Director of Animal Services has the audacity to attempt to minimize his responsibility by claiming the shelter didn't euthanize these animals. There is no difference if Animal Services stuck these animals with the death juice or not. They are permanently gone. Technically, they are all dead. Because they are dead because of this director's irresponsibility. That's why it's called a negative outcome. Nothing about what has happened to these animals is positive. The director failed to do his due diligence to ensure the animals in Animal Services shelter system are being cared for. He has known for 2 years the foster care program was failing, animals slipping through the cracks, yet he did nothing for 2 years. The director's bogus letter to the community in no way absolves him from failing to do his job. He can try to pass the buck by blaming COVID and a national vet shortage. Neither of those has anything to do with the director's responsibility to regularly follow up on the animals in the foster care and shelter system. The bottom line is this director failed to do his job, failed the community, and most of all, failed the animals he is responsible for. The bigger question is why the director hasn't been removed as director of El Paso Animal Services. These animals were given that much-needed second chance at life until this director consciously and purposely took that away from them. My hope is all of you look at these bags. Look at all of these beans that represent an animal. They're representing dead animals, the innocent victims needlessly gone as a direct result of the director. I hope you come up with some answers. Do some deep soul searching and self-reflection and answer as to why you allowed this to happen on your watch. The simplest answer is he needs to be removed as director of El Paso Animal Services. These animals deserved
Ms.
Thank
Valencia,
better.
you,
you've
ma'am.
reached your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mark Fierro. Mr. Fierro's topic is animal services. Good afternoon, Mr. Fierro. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon,
Good
sir.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank
It's always
you.
good to see you. So recently we received, the city, that is, received a letter from the Director of Animal Services addressing the community about an issue that back in February, 173 animals were euthanized. 29 died in our care. 532 animals were processed, and as an outcome, they were lost in our care. This 532 animals for that month, lost in care, were part of an ongoing foster audit data. Foster data audit, a number that has accumulated since 2021. And as a transparent organization, what this means for our live release rate is that we complete this foster data audit, we'll see a temporary negative impact on overall lives saved. What this really means is we haven't done anything about that for 2 years. Can you imagine a department failing to address something that is on every single report that they make and not look at what's really going on there? How can that be? These people are being paid to do that job. I would think that they would show up and do it. I noticed also that in this, there were concerns that were brought to the management regarding loss of contact with many fosters. Over the past few years, they've been continuing to work through the challenges of COVID, nationwide veterinary shortage, and overall staff shortage. Why did this take 2 years to raise a finger, to do anything? What we really need is more compassion, people who understand, people who are experienced. Apparently we're changing policies and, to quote, to include more rigorous counseling for fosters and dedicating more staff to the program. This should be more compassionate care for foster families, asking them what they need. How can we help you? Is your dog or cat spayed or neutered, the one that we provided you to care, and you are providing the care for them? It should also read that we're providing more rigorous training for the staff, not for the counseling of our foster families. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, that concludes call to the public.
Thank you, ma'am. We can go back to item 46.
Yes, sir. Item 46 is discussion and action on a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application which requires no match from the city to the U.S. Economic Development Administration FY 2023 Distressed Area Recompete Pilot Program Phase 2.
Motion to approve.
There is a motion made by Representative Salcido, seconded by Representative Rivera to approve item 46.
Before we vote, I have Representative Canales, but I do want to thank you all. I know this is phase 2, and you've done a lot of hard work on it, and we're one of 22 finalists out of 500 and... Help me finish.
565.
So, great work, and I know that you guys worked really, really hard to get us here, and I know that it doesn't mean we'll get $50 million, but I know we're hoping that we do get the $50 million, but we could get it from between there. So I want to thank Omar, you and you for the hard work, and look forward to you guys telling us how much you all end up getting for us, because I know you worked really hard to earn the belief of the federal government that what we do here is very important, and it really is. So, and you have to tell them. They don't know that. So you actually have to go out there and tell them and explain to them what it means for our community to get $50 million, and what it'll do to our citizens, how it'll impact our community, and how it'll help us move forward. So again, I want to thank you all and your team for getting us to the top 22, and I look forward for y'all coming in with a bigger smile and reporting how much money we got. So thank you for that. Representative Canales.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, it's an excellent application, and really an excellent use of grant funding for workforce training, job placement, business development, just all different services to local workers, local businesses, local employers. I don't think you have to go through the entire presentation, but if you don't mind, I think it'd be a good benefit for members of the public to understand what we're looking to fund here. Maybe you can pick it up from like slide 12 to the end. It's just 3 slides.
Oh, certainly.
If that's okay.
Yes, of course.
Essentially just showing what the projects are that we're looking to fund, and how we're leveraging resources.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much. We're very optimistic, and we hope to make our community proud in bringing these funds here. My name is Adriana Pulesio. I'm with the Economic Development, and I guess we're picking up from slide 12. Can I? Sorry. All right. So with the Recompete pilot program, we have these 3 buckets that we're looking here in the slide. So these are going to be 3 main areas that we're going to be looking to fund through this initiative. So we've got one here for training, that we're hoping to bring some opportunity to our community. We're looking primarily at prime age workers, so between 24 and 55, that are either
underemployed or unemployed. So just an opportunity to bring everyone back to our economy and be able to prepare our community for a lot of the opportunities that we've been seeing and a lot of the trends that we see in our regional economy. So we're working very closely with Workforce Solutions Waterplex and leading that outreach and that recruitment of our population and finding opportunities to connect with private industry, with UTEP, Fab Lab, and Microsoft, bringing those digital skills and being able to have like just-in-time curriculum for aerospace and defense, advanced manufacturing, intelligent infrastructure, and some work that we're doing in healthcare. And for our second project component, we're looking at job placement and business development services that we're teaming up with a lot of community partners. This is a part that's being spearheaded by the city of El Paso and being able to future-proof our small business and being able to bring a lot of those components that are necessary for growth and for development of our region here. It is worth noting that we do have a portion here in budget that will not have any kind of, I guess, burden on the city when it comes to managing these funds and managing this grant that will last for up to 50 years. For 5 years. I wish it were 50, but no, it is 5. So that is something that we're hoping we're going to cover here and really make the best of this opportunity for our region. And for our third project component, we're looking at wraparound services, again working closely with Workforce Solutions Borderplex to make sure that we have a good comprehensive ecosystem for our community, that we can relieve a lot of the pressure and a lot of the boundaries that our community experiences when they're looking into training and looking into upskilling and advancing. So hopefully we'll be able to have all of that support and really be there with our community from the first day of training into their new job placement and making sure that all of those needs are met. Within the budget, we do have some set-asides. We have $5 million that are dedicated for our transitioning military members, for our veterans, for their families, and for survivors. This is going to go very much in line with what we're seeing with other initiatives, and so we're hoping to see that impact increase to about 600 participants. We're putting aside $4 million for intelligent infrastructure training. We're hoping this will impact about 150 participants and have all of this infrastructure stay in the region so we can be able to participate in a lot of trends that we're seeing and a lot of funding that we're receiving that I'll mention shortly. And we've got $500,000 that we're working with Underserved Communities Foundation to make sure that we have a really equitable approach and that we can give everyone their best opportunity to participate and upskill and see improvement for their lives and for their families. And another set aside of $500,000 that we're working with the Hunt Institute for Global Competitiveness and data collection, tracking, and reporting to make sure that we can really capture the impact of these funds and make sure that we can relay that information and see that impact in our community growth. These are some of the local resources that we're going to be leveraging with Recompete, so this really ties all of these initiatives together and it makes a more comprehensive system that we can implement. So with Recompete, with all of these training programs, we're going to be preparing our community to take on a lot of the jobs and a lot of the growth that we're seeing from investments in like Build Back Better, the NSF Innovation Grants Engine. A lot of what we're doing with intelligent infrastructure, we're going to see reflected in the $15 million that we received for EV charging stations grants, and Pathways for Heroes that are going to be augmented, being able to affect more of our community. And we expect to be able to have more, I guess, complementary training and development for those that are in the Innovation Factory, strengthen our advanced manufacturing district, and be able to really use a lot of the allocations and a lot of the resources that we have, like with the Business One-Stop Shop, and a lot of the facilities that we have locally to really make sure that we have that access for everyone. So that's, in a quick nutshell, those last few slides.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very helpful to hear that. We, as the mayor said, are a finalist, top 22 out of 565 folks who applied for this grant funding from the federal government, the Economic Development Administration. And they, I understand, will select 4 to 8 finalists in the summer. Okay, I think we've put together, I shouldn't say we, I take no credit. You all have put together an excellent application. I'm confident that we have a good chance to be selected, and I think it'll be incredibly helpful to El Paso business across the scale, small business to large business, employers and employees, for us to receive this. So thank you for all the hard work you've done on it.
Thank you, sir. We wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you. And after looking at your presentation, if anyone wants the rest of it, of course, it is on the backup. But one of the things that we are leveraging is the greatest resource we do have, and that's our people. And when we go out to the federal government as a community of over 85% Hispanic minority community, we can really leverage the needs of our community and our, and over 50,000 veterans in our community. So what you're leveraging, and you say there is no match, there's a big match, our people. So thank you again for that. And with that, we have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. The motion was made by Representative Salcido, seconded by Representative Rivera to approve item 46. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. Representative Hernandez not present. That brings us to item 48, and this is discussion and action that the city manager or designee be authorized to effectuate the listed budget transfer attached to the resolution as Exhibit A for the police department. There is a motion made by Representative Rivera, seconded by alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molinar, to approve item 48.
Can we hold the vote till Frankie walks all the way up to the podium and then vote for it?
He's there.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted.
On that motion, call for the vote.
Chief, you're a chief now. You don't have to smile at him anymore. Thank you, sir. Congratulations on your appointment.
In the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. Representative Hernandez not present. Item 49 is discussion and action on the award of Task Order 2 under Solicitation 2023-0397 in support of the Wainwright Park Phase 2 project to Keystone GC LLC.
Motion approved.
Second.
We do have public comment from Ms. Turner.
I have a question. Having grown up on the playground with merry-go-rounds, swings, monkey bars, all those fun things, seeing how far you can jump when you come out of a swing, and now swings are considered extremely dangerous as for playground equipment. I have to ask a question. Zip line, what kind of liability does that present to the city? Is there any liability concerns with a zip line? I mean, if swings are dangerous, a zip line has to be too.
Good afternoon, Yvette Hernandez.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
To respond to that, the zip line does have engineered wood fill for the fall protection. And so we've seen this within different public parks. And so it is a trend that a lot of the parks are going towards.
So we have absolutely zero liability concerns with this. Is that what I'm hearing?
We don't, based on the protections we're putting in place, no different than other playground equipment. So it's been evaluated in terms of usage and protection for kids.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, sir. There's a motion made by Representative Salcido, seconded by alternate Mayor Pro Tem Molinar to approve item 49. On that motion, call for the vote. In the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. Representative Hernandez not present. The final item is discussion and action to approve the appropriation of $3 million from the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds portion of the grant funds.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second, and I know we do have some public comment.
Yes, sir, we do have public comment. We have John Martin. I don't see Mr. Martin in the queue. Mr. Martin is not in the queue, and he's not present in chambers. Lisa Turner,
And Ms. Turner is waving.
thank you, and Angelica Mata Lindstrom.
So we have Representative Canales.
Mayor, I think someone else was called up to provide comment.
Angelica Mata Lindstrom.
I think someone else was called
I'm
up.
sorry, I didn't see that. Look at my sheet, I only had 2 people on my
That's
sheet.
Good afternoon, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Angelica Mata Lindstrom. I am the Senior Director of Community Resiliency with United Way of El Paso County. So United Way has been a very strong collaborator with the city when it comes to supporting a high quality of life and a place for our community. And we currently are a collaborator of the city's El Paso Helps initiative, right? So we're actively working to address the homelessness and support individuals in crisis. So through the collaborative, we have been able to make a direct impact, and success of the collaborative is evident. Through our intentional focus of homelessness prevention, we've been able to achieve great results. We've extended over 23,000 nights of individuals remaining housed. So we eliminated their eviction and kept them housed, which was really important for us. We are able to also apply savings that we were able to achieve for participants within our program and apply them to help address their food insecurity. And last, the platform, it's created a direct access for community members to speak and work directly with the agency collaborators, right, on solutions, helping to address their needs. So if we think of the need, even though we have made positive strides, we still face challenges, right, when it comes to homelessness as well as food insecurity. If we look at numbers mid-2022 to the late 2023, a program that we oversaw received over 2,700 applications for rental assistance. And this resulted in a request of over $12 million. Unfortunately, demand exceeded the resources available, and we were able only to support, I believe, an average of 25%, right? Inflation, increase in monthly rental payments, and for housing instability has continued to exist and has been exacerbated. And we know there's been studies conducted by UTEP which identified an average of 35% of El Pasoans face food insecurity, but within those 35%, 22% worry about making their monthly rental payments or their mortgage payments with the results of becoming unhoused. So even though we've made positive strides, demand is evident, right? And through dedicated resources and programming and key community stakeholders really working against a common goal, we're able to make these positive strides in fostering the stability for our community members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mr. Martin is in the queue.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Martin, star 6, please, to unmute your telephone, please. Good afternoon, you have 3 minutes.
I apologize, I'm here.
Yes, sir, go ahead, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good day, and I apologize for not being there in person, but my name is John Martin. I'm the Deputy Director with the Opportunity Center for the Homeless, and I wanted to speak in favor of agenda item number 50. I just heard a portion of Angelica's presentation with United Way, and I do want to echo what she has indicated. But in addition to that, in looking at the vulnerability and the homeless needs within our community, it needs to be recognized that we are seeing significant increases in the number of individuals being served. I just recently looked at about 4 months worth of data, and we've seen over 2,000 unique individuals just within the past 5 months. If you contrast that to 4 or 5 years ago, that's twice, and we're not even through the year at this point. But one of the blessings that has come out of COVID and the work that we've done with the migrant influx is the value of working together. And I'm specifically referencing the initiative through the Community and Human Development Department that is titled El Paso Helps, where you have entities that are working together with a common goal, not only to prevent homelessness, but to make homelessness rare and brief. So I do want to speak in favor of the proposal as reflected in item agenda number 50, and I'll close with that.
Thank you. Mayor, that concludes public comment on this item.
And we do have Representative Canales.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, El Paso Helps has been really a transformational effort, I think, in terms of bringing all of these services together. They are all services that existed before, but maybe that's not true. Most of them are services that existed before, but bringing them all together into one program so that people can receive services from one location at one time. I would like to see the presentation on this. I think it's an excellent thing that the public should be aware of, that we're investing our ARPA funds in.
100%. Abraham Gutierrez with the Department of Community Human Development. If IT can share the presentation. So I'm here to provide to you all today an update in terms of the appropriation for the $3 million for the ARPA funds that were designated towards community human development. I'm gonna go through this in short order, Representative. As you know, we do have the Department of Community Human Development, which we are tasked with those 4 pillars. I think that one of the things we like to say is those are some of the most important challenges that our community are facing nowadays. When you look at climate, you look at affordable housing, and then obviously homelessness. So to your point, we're always trying to look at how we can best leverage each pillar to ensure that we maximize the benefits to the community. We know very well, and as I think that was said by Ms. Mata, there's not enough funding to cover every single need. And so what we're doing is we're implementing business-like practices to make sure we maximize the use of those funds. Just a real quick overview, and I'll just like to add that it's been a resounding success. El Paso Helps. I mean, we're so happy and pleased with the agencies that we decided to partner. That is the United Way, Project Amistad, the Opportunity Center, and we also have Endeavors helping us provide those basic valuable services and something that's never been done before in the city. Matter of fact, one of the things that we're hearing from other communities is they want to copy our model, right? There are similar services, but nothing exactly quite like this, where you can be in a big significant crisis at a point in your life, access that portal. You just need access to a smartphone, and basically be able to identify shelter, identify housing, get connected with one of the wonderful coordinators from the United Way to assist you further. You know, your kids need a meal, like all those particulars are covered. So we really started with the basic services, and we would make sure that it's something that we want to continue. And so, you know, really deployed almost 2 years ago at this point, resounding success. One of the things I want to remind to you all, to this council particularly, is when we get a street outreach request to our office, we utilize El Paso Helps. So all we do is we take that information, we go to the portal, we then send a very quick street outreach team that tries to assist those folks, tries to give them, you know, when's the last time you had a meal, you know, do you need any medicine, you know, and so that has been an essential piece of addressing the homeless challenges we're seeing in our community, right? We're also thinking about how we can improve those services, right? And so that's just something to consider. So I'm not going to go through each of the services. At some point, we will be bringing back to the council updates, see how we can make this bigger, better, see if we can, other services we can connect our folks. But again, just wanted to share that.
Do you have those details you can share with us?
Yes.
Can you share those with us, please?
Yes, Mayor, yes.
Thank you.
So next slide, we just look at the actual funding deployment for the services. Again, we want to make sure we're covering the emergency shelter component with the Welcome Center, the Opportunity Center. We also want to have available housing options for our folks in need with Endeavors and also Amistad. Finally, we have street outreach, as I just described it, with Amistad. And then we have resource navigation and also the integration of the diversity, equity, and inclusion piece with the United Way. So that's basically our approach to completely deplete our ARPA allocation. We think it's an excellent allocation, and we're excited to continue to work forward.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I would say the majority of the shelter operations are, operated by the various different partners are located within my district, and many, if not most, of the partners are as well. So the transformation that this has on District 8, and I think on the whole city, is immense. You mentioned it can be accessed online via even a smartphone, right? I just wanted to emphasize too, there is an in-person location for the portal as well, correct? At the Center for Civic Engagement?
Yes, so the Center for Civic Empowerment, which, 17th floor of the Blue Flame, we have a kiosk there. Yes, absolutely. You could access El Paso Helps through.
So anyone who needs these services but doesn't have digital
Correct.
access of their own, they can go there and access these services just the same.
Yes, sir, 100%.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate all the work you've done on this. I was there at the unveiling of this about a year ago, and it's great to see how far it's come. So thank you.
Ms. Bryan?
Yes, so there was a motion made by Representative Salcido, seconded by Representative Fierro to approve item 50. On that motion, call for the vote. End the voting session, and the motion passes unanimously. Representatives Hernandez, Fierro not present.
You know, Ms. Bryan, I did see Mr. Steven Strummer sitting in the back just now, but I guess he left. I was going to allow him to come and do his public comment, but he might have left.
I think he did leave, Mayor.
So before we leave, though, I want everyone to really clear your throat, really, really good, because we're all going to sing Representative Rivera happy birthday. So.
And turn your mics on,
Stand
okay?
up,
We want to
sir.
make sure you can hear it.
Ready? Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Happy birthday, sir.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn the city council meeting. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Aye.
And the city council meeting for Tuesday, March 26, 2024 is adjourned at 12:47 p.m. Thank you, council.
I want everyone to clear their throat first.